Okay. So once you're able to upload the notebook, click on the notebook that you uploaded, and you're going to have, can you see my screen where I have introduction to Python? Okay, please just confirm that.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So every other question, please put it in the chat box and someone will respond to you. So Sheyi and Okpe, you can respond to some of those questions. Okay. So I was starting at very beginning. I was talking about that we're going to start with strings, lists, dictionaries, loops, and functions. Okay. So this is just a kind of introduction to what strings are. Strings are just sequence of letters, one or more letters. You can see I just put str1. What is str1? It's just a label. It's just a variable name that you can put. I can decide to save it as put as s. S is just a variable. Okay. The equal sign is an assignment operator. Okay. It doesn't mean the equality sign is an assignment operator. So, and what I put in quotes is that string. If you do not put it in quotes, it's going to tell you error. Suppose I remove this, the quote around that, and I put S. You can see I'm going to have error because Python does not understand that. So that means that strings has to be enclosed in quotes. Like I was saying, Shagun is here. So this becomes a string. Because you are using Jupyter Notebook, you don't have to put print. You can put print X, it's going to give you that. But because it's Jupyter Notebook, it's an interactive platform, just put your S, your variable, call the variable back, and click on display, or you just click on Shift Enter. If you tap Shift Enter on your keyboard, you're going to have that. Okay, so that's a string. Whatever you put inside that code is going to give you back. Okay, so Shagun is here, you have that there. All right, so the next thing is that how do you, suppose you are interested in the length of the thing that you put here. How do you do that? Just put your LEN. LEN stands for the length. Length of the variable S. Please, I want everybody to mute themselves. Okay, you can mute yourself.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, so, yeah. Okay, so if you want to get the length, like I said, just is LEN, not full length, just LEN. Then put the variable you have inside of it, and then you're going to have the length of the string. What Python is doing is not only counting the letter, it's also counting the spaces between the strings that you typed. Okay, so that's how to get the length. And it's not only on strings, but mainly for strings. You can use that for lists. When you get there, you see that. Can we all please mute ourselves, please? Abayomi, please do that. Thank you. All right. So indexing. What do we mean by indexing? Indexing means that maybe you want to get one or two, like something, some of the strings. You may want to obtain that. So you have your S. If you want to index any strings, call the variable, then the square bracket, not your, not this bracket. Use the square bracket. And then, so to subset that, suppose I put 3. Now, Python, it is zero index. When I mean zero index, it start counting from 0. It's not from 1. It start counting 0, 1. So the first, like if I put 0, let me comment this one out. So comment, you use hash symbol. So suppose I put S square bracket 0, I'm going to have S, meaning that's the first letter, that's the first string. Okay, and maybe if I want the first 5 strings, use colon and put 5. Now, if you do that, observe, it gives you Shagun 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not going to give you the last element. Since it's counting from 0, it's going to do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you put the first 5. Same way if you can get the first 10 like that. So you use colon because you want to get it from the very beginning to 5. Suppose I just want to get, let's say from the third, 0, 1, 2, 2 is the third, to 5. I can do that too, and it gives me this. But if you want to start from the beginning, then do not include anything there. Just put colon 5. It gives you the first 5. Okay? So, and you can play around that for any length you want. Okay? If you want to get the last element, the funniest thing is that if counting from the last element, instead of counting the length, just put -1, and it's going to start from the back. Like if you put -1 there, you can see it gives us the last letter, which is E. And it gives us that. So instead of counting to know the last letter, just counting from the very beginning, from the last. So just put S square bracket -1, right? Yeah, don't worry, just put your question there and they will respond to you. And if there be anyone you're not clear with, I believe we're still going to go into the breakout room, then I'll answer your question. Okay, now to reverse, suppose I want to reverse this. I just want to play around it and reverse it. So, I mean, there is a function to reverse that in Python, but I don't want to use the function for now. So I can just call the variable, the square bracket, this double colon, meaning the first column is go from the first, the last column means to the last, and then put -1, meaning start counting from the very last. Okay, and then you're going to have this. And then, so what it does is that it reverses that string, starting from the last to the very first. Okay, and yeah, the same thing, I've talked about this first one. Remember, I've done this, like the first 3, just play around. Just one thing I want you to catch from here is that to index a string, use square bracket. You can put in the number you want, and Python is 0 index, meaning start counting from 0. And then if you want it to count from the very beginning to whatever number you want, just start with colon and to whatever number you want to stop. If you don't want it to start from the very beginning, suppose I want it from the first one, means the second one, because it starts from 0, then it's going to give me that. Okay, so it starts from E, which is the second one, to G. Now, you put 3, but it's not going to include the last element, the last number you put there. It's not going to do that. It's going to include the first number, but it's not going to include the last number. So that's why you see that S is 0, E is 1, G is 2, but you put 3 here, so it's not going to include that. If I wanted to include the 3, then I'll just simply put 4, so that I can include the third one. I mean this U, okay? Yeah, so you can take note of that. Okay, so let's look at some method that you can apply on strings. So I have a new variable here, which I call str2. You can use any variable name you want, but a variable must start with a letter. It must not start with a number. It must start with a letter. So suppose I put a variable called str2, which is what we think will become. Now, these are methods. Am I supposed to know all of this method offhand? No. The best way you are not supposed to memorize any function in Python. So especially if you are using notebook, what you can do is this. So suppose I put str2 to know what functions I can use or what method I can use on this string. Put dots and press tab on your keyboard. Press tab. It's going to load, and then you see you can see the list of method that comes up. And then you can choose which one you want. Now I want to count. You can see count there. So you don't need to memorize it. You don't need to memorize that, oh, I have to use count. No. Just press the string, put dots, and then press tab on your keyboard. And it's going to list out all of the method you want. So now I want to count. I click count. Then since it's a method, you have to end it with your bracket. Okay, now, how can I know what I can do from there? what I can do here. So I want to count. Count what? So suppose I want to count the letter E that we have here. Put in quote and put E. I want to count the E, the number of E's that I have in this string. So just put dot count and then put the E, whatever letter you want to count in quote, and then press Shift Tab. Then you can see it tells me that I have 4 E's there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you can count whichever one you want to count. You can count W or whichever letter, but that's the approach. The same thing with index. What is index? Index is the position, that word that you want to check, where it starts from. Suppose I want to index, remember, just press tab up, put dot and press tab, and you can scroll down. If you do not want to scroll down, just press I. It gives you, you can see, it brings out the one you're looking for, index. And then you can put this. Which word do I want to find? Suppose I want to find the index of think. So I just press my think and then this. So it tells me that this thing starts at number 8, at the index 8. If you count, you will realize that's true. The first one is 0, H is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Remember, it's counting space too. So that means this thing starts at index 8. Now, the method index and find, they work similarly on string. Suppose I use find instead of index. I just put find. See, and run it again. You can see I still have my output to be 8. So they work similarly, but they are not the same. But you can play around it and figure out. But in most cases, you will get the same thing. Okay? So I'm just trying to introduce you to some of the methods that we have. So suppose you want to turn that string to, you want to turn it to all capital letters, uppercase. Like I said, once you put the dot, just press the tab, and then you can see I have upper, and just put that, and then it's going to, you can see it capitalizes everything, makes everything uppercase. The same thing lower, you can do that for lower too. Remember, don't memorize any function. Just press tab, put lower L. If you are not sure of the particular method, just, scroll down, or I just press L and it brings me all the methods that start with L. Then I put lower and do this and run it again. You can see it makes everything lowercase. Okay? The same thing capitalize. Capitalize means just the first letter. Turn the first letter to capital letter. So just, you can try it with me. Just, you have capitalize, do this. So it's not so different because we already have the first letter as a capital letter. So that's why you won't see any difference. Suppose I want to show you and just make that a lowercase and then rerun this. You can see it turns it to a capital, an uppercase. Okay. So that's that. So suppose you just want to, title, you want to get the title. Title means it's going to capitalize the first letter of each of the word. So you have the string, put dot and press tab. You see all of the methods. So let me put T so that you can give me the method that starts with T. So I can see that title and put that there. And then you can see that the first letter of each word has been capitalized, meaning that it gives us the title of each of those first letters. Okay? Now, I will only, when you are talking about natural language processor or whatever, there's something we call tokens. Tokens are just individual words. So how do we get that in strings? Meaning, get each of these tokens of each of the word in the sentence. So put your string, and then the same way. So I want to split it. I will split each of those words in my sentence, each of the words there, and then click on it. You can see what Python does is just to split each of the words in the sentence. These are called tokens. So anywhere you hear tokens, they just mean individual words and including the punctuation marks in that sentence. So you can separate that. I mean, I'm not going to go deep into it because this is not a natural language processing class. Okay, so that is that about that. So don't worry, I'll take your questions later. So I want to move to list. What is a list? A list is just a sequence of, of words and different kind of data types. I mean, you can include not just string, I can include number in that list. But one thing is a list starts with a square bracket. If you want to represent list, you have to have a square bracket. You can have different data types there. You can have floats, you can have strings. These are strings, this is an integer. I can have another list also in that string. I can have another string, have Ali, I can have list of lists, something like that. So remember, you have to run it first by pressing Shift Enter on your keyboard, and then you can see it move. So let's work on this list. So two things I said. The first thing is that a list starts with a square bracket, and it can contain different types of data types. It can have a string, it can have a number, it can even contain another type of list. Okay, so if you want to get the first element, the same way as that of string, let me just make this, okay. Just the same way, just call on your variable, square bracket, the first element starts with 0, since Python is 0 index, okay. I want to make sure it runs. Okay, so if you do that and you click, you press Shift Enter. Okay, I think this is okay. So press Shift Enter, then it gives you the first string there because I asked for the first one by putting 0. If I want the second one, I can just put 1, and it gives me the second one, which is Iron Man. The same way all the methods you run on the strings can also work here. So how do you reverse the list? The same way you reverse the string, by first calling your variable, Avengers, put your square bracket. Remember, the first column means that I want you to start from the very beginning. The second column, I want you to go to the last. Since I want to reverse, start from the last. If you want to end there, remember the last one you start is -1. So if you do that and also click, you can see it actually reverses the list. So you can see the list that we have Alice Simbi at the last comes first, like that. So the same method you use. So how do you add element to that list? Suppose I want to add element to the list. What do? You use what we call the append method. I want to append a string to that, to that list. So call on your variable Avengers and then click this dot. If you're not sure, click the dot and tab like I told you. Append, click A, then it gives you the append method. And then you can put the square bracket. Append what? What do you want to append? Suppose I want to append the string Kenny. And then I do that. I have to call it back. I have to call the variable so that it will print. Because if I do not call the variable, it's not going to show me anything. So see, I can have, because I run it twice, that's why it's giving me Kenny twice. Meaning the first time I run it before I called it, and the second one, I can undo that. So you can see it already appended Kenny to my list, and you can append whatever string you want to, append there. Let me comment it out. Anytime you put, if you want to comment, just use the hash symbol. It's not going to print it. Okay. So suppose you want to change, maybe it's because list, you can actually, list is mutable, meaning you can change some elements there. Suppose you want to change this third element, Captain, to Captain America. So what you need to do, you need to know the position of the string you want to, update. So since Python start with 0, Awk is 0, Iron Man is 1, Captain is 2. So that's why I'm putting 2 in the square bracket, and I'm putting what I want to update it with, Captain America, instead of Captain there. And then I can call it back. Remember, to see what you are running, you have to call the variable back. And you can see it has changed from Captain to Captain America. So that's how you can so remember to update, or to update whatever element you have in the list. Look at the index of the string you want to update. That goes in square bracket in front of the variable. Equals to is an assignment symbol. And then put in the string that you want to include there, and then you have that. Okay. To delete, just use the del. Del means DL, and then put in your variables. I want to delete the first element there, Awk. So remember, the first element is 0. So just put del Avengers 0, and then you have it deleted. Remember, anytime you want to see what you are doing, you have to call back the variable. Okay? So to see what I have, and then you can see it has actually deleted the first one, which is Awk. It has deleted it. So I have it here. So the same way, you can add another list to it. I named that Avengers 2, and I call it a list, Vision Sam. I want to add it to my very first list. So what I have Avengers 2, which is this. Now I can add list together. So this is adding Avengers with Avengers 2. Okay, but if I do that, it's not going to give me, it's not going to, if you did not call it back like this. See what I'm saying? Like I added this, it didn't show it. But remember, call the variable back, and then you will see what you've done updated. You can see the Vision Sam there. This is giving me 2 because I have 2 prints. I have 2 prints. So this is the first one, this is the second one. So this is my Avenger. So it's going to print the last stuff you have there. If you're using Jupyter Notebook, it's always going to print the last statement. So the last statement is the first one, and it has already included my Vision Sam that are the Avengers 2. So you can add list of lists together. I'm just trying to show you the different methods you can use and some of the Python basics before we start working with the data. We're going to, extend the time like today a little bit because of the delay we had at the very beginning. Okay, so the in operator. Now this is kind of conditional, like conditional statement, not really loop. So you have like if Iron Man. Remember, Iron Man is a string I have in the list. That if Iron Man is in this Avengers is my list here. If Iron Man is there, always put colon anytime you are using condition. Put colon at the last, in front of the last one, and then print yes if Iron Man is there. S meaning otherwise, print no. And it's going to give me yes. Suppose I just put a word that is not there, like let's say I put Dami, and you can see it's going to put no for me because Dami is not in the list. Okay, so just to use the in operator. So yeah, because you will need it handy as you go on in your Python exploration. So what are those methods that we can also use on lists? You can find the maximum number in a list or the maximum string in a list. Just use the max function. Passing, I have a list called L1 here. Okay, I have a list called L1. So just put max and then pass your list, the variable name into that max. And it gives me, oh, sorry, because I have this. So, and then you can see it gives me the maximum element there, which is 50. Okay, the same way you can have the minimum, which is the mean, pass in your variable, and then you click that. It gives you the minimum, the minimum, the smallest number in that list, which is 2. Okay? Yeah. So if you want to sort it, suppose you want to sort it, there are 2 ways you can do that in Python. You can use the sort method and you can use the sorted, but they are not used the same way. If you are using the sort method, you write your list, dot, and then put sort method just this way, okay? And then what you're going to have is this. It sorts it in ascending order. By default, it's in ascending order. But suppose I want it in descending order. Just, if you want to find out, just click, put your shift tab to know what and what is in, like put your cursor in this sort and put shift tab. It tells you how this is defined. You can see, you have, by default, the reverse is false, meaning do not reverse it by default. But if you want to change that, you can just put reverse is true, meaning I want it in descending order. And then you have it in descending order. Okay? So what if I want to use the sorted? The same way, the same result, but different way. If you're using the sorted, you're going to start with writing sorted, and then you pass in your list in it. Okay? And then you have it. Also by default, it's also using sorting in ascending order. But you can also put reverse equals to true there to see the result. What is it? Yeah, so you can also see that. So if you're using sorted, it's also going to give you by default in ascending order, but if you put reverse is true, it's also going to do that. So 2 ways to sort. You can use the sort method, you can use the sorted. Just those 2 different ways to sort. And then suppose that you want to extend. Extend is a little bit different from append, but they work, you know, similarly, but just with minor difference. Suppose I want to extend this Avengers 1 with the Avengers 2 that I created here, and so I just put this. Remember the variable, put dot. If you are not sure, press tab and then put this. It's going to give you the method. Don't memorize any variable because there are so many. Okay, so pass in the variable you want to extend. So I think I named that Avengers 2. Yeah, and then you can create shift tab. Then it's what it does is that you can see it extends it almost like now. Almost like append method. So they are very similar, but as you work on with it, so this, I was trying to show the difference between the 2. If you use the append, it's going to append the list that way. It's going to append the list, but if you use extend, it just puts the list, those elements of that list there. You can see when I use append there, it append the list together with it. But using extend here, it just included the vision and Sam in that second list. Okay, I'm trying to rush through this in a little way. But like I said, we're gonna have extra class like the Sunday following the last one, so that to cover up for this, the delay we have in the first class, okay? Now, there is a kind of method in list that you need to know. We call it list comprehension, okay? But I'm going to talk about that here. But let me start with the for loop, okay? For loop is a way to loop through whatever to list you have. You are seeing the range function. Range function is a generator. Let me Let me comment this one out and show you that, or just put a variable here. So suppose I put range 10. It's just gonna give me range 0 to 10. But if I want to see what is in there, wrap it with a list that lists all the elements in this range. Sorry, it's supposed to be list. And then it gives me all the elements there. So range to 10, you can see start from 0 to 9. Okay, so that's our range function. So if you want to see the elements in the range, just wrap it around list. But I can loop through the list, the range, without using list. So that's what this is doing. Okay, so I want to use for loop. For loop is just like, meaning, suppose you can see this list. L2 is just what I typed here. It means it's going to give me 0, 1 through to 9. Okay, so for I in range 10, meaning I is just an iterator. I is just anything. I mean, I can use T. I can use T. I can use any letter you want. I is just an iterator, meaning I is not going to represent each element in this list. So it's going to start from the first one, meaning for T in range 10, remember, range 10 goes from 0 to 9. So for T in that range, meaning for T, so T is going to start from 0. What do I want it to print? Print. So put colon, put this, print. I want you to put square of it. So use 2 as I put the square of whatever element you print. So it's going to start from 0. 0 squared is going to give me 0. Then it takes the second element, 1. It takes 1 and then give me the square, 1. It takes 2 and also give me the square, that's 4. It takes 3 like that, gives me 9. Suppose I want the cube, I can put 3 there. And it's going to just take each element and then give me the cube of it, 0 times 0 times 0, 1 times 1 times 1, 2 times 2 times 2, like that. And then you're going to have that. Okay, suppose I just want the even number, the odd numbers there. Remember, odd numbers are numbers that when you divide it by 2, you're going to get a remainder of 1. So, meaning for I in range 10, meaning you can use any number. Suppose I want to use range 15, meaning go from 0 to 14. It's not going to include the last number, okay? If this percent operator is what we call modulo, meaning division, if I is divided by 2, the remainder, if this modulo means the remainder of I, the division of I and 2, if the remainder of this I and 2 is equals to 1, print I. That's what it's going to do. So it's going to start from 0, 0 divided by 2. You realize that, 0 divided by 2 is 0. It's not going to include 0. If you do 1 divided by 2 is going to give me a remainder of 1. Then it's going to give you 1. If you do 2 divided by 2 is 0. So it's not going to include it, because I just want the odd numbers. If I want just the even numbers, I can just put 0, meaning if the remainder of this division is 0, print it. And then if you run it again, it's going to give you all the even numbers. So, I mean, you can play around it. And there's, most of these things you have to explore. You have to play around it before you get a good handle of it. Okay? Now, list comprehension is just a way of wrapping all this stuff in a single line. That's what list comprehension is. And that's what I have here. Meaning, I want to do all the for loop that I have done here, but I want to put it in a single line. Okay? As you move on in your exploration, list comprehension is actually a good stuff that you need to work around with. So, the same thing I have put here. For I in range 10, meaning for I in 0 to 9, print I if the remainder of I divided by 2 is equals to 1. The same way, the same thing. What you put in the first element here, the first position here, is what is going to print. That just stands for the print. Print this. For I goes in this, print this if this condition is true. What is this condition? If the division, this percent means is called modulo. It means the remainder of the division of I and 2. So print this if for I goes in 0 to 9, if the remainder of I and 2 is equals to 1. And then you're going to give that. Suppose I want the even number, like I told you, just put 0, and you're going to get the even number. So wrapping all your for loop in a single line is what we call the least comprehension. It will, as you develop long, like write long code, it might not really be, advisable to use it, but in most cases, it will give you what you want, okay? Yeah, this functions too is not a big deal. Function is putting everything you have in a single block of code, or everything I've done, you can put it in a function. But why do you use function? Because the reason we use function when you're writing coding is because you don't want to keep changing it every time. So using function, once I change something in the function, it's going to change everything instead of going to look through your code at the very beginning. So what do? If you want to write a function? Start with this keyword def. It means this definition. You are defining, and then the next thing is your function name. Here I'm using add. You can use anything, but do not use keyword like sum, all those methods we have used. So you can use any variable name like plus. I can use plus since I want, but it's better to use a function name that can help you to recall what that function is doing. So remember, start with def, meaning definition, define, then the function name. Open a bracket. What you have inside this bracket are just the parameters, the argument you want to use inside the function, okay? So I put A and B. A and B can be anything. You can use X and Y. You can use any letter of yours. What do I want you to do? I want you to sum the two things I pass into it. I could as well use A plus B instead of the sum, since both are the same. And then what I want you to return result. If you do not use this return, it's going to run, but you're not going to have any result at the end. So, but that's why we're using return, so that it can give us something. So when you do that, if you do not call back your function, it's actually not going to give you anything. So to see what you've done, call the function that you've just defined. Put any letter. Let's say I want to put 10 and 2. And then it's going to give me 12. I've defined a function. I could have done this without using a function. But function is just a way, it's something that you're going to use, very well as we go on for all other classes. So just everything you can, every of your code, just put it the same step. There is no separate step for function. Just wrap it inside a function by defining, start with def, so start with a function definition, put in your function name. Here I use plus, and then open a bracket. Put in the parameter that you will use along that function. One way I normally do I don't start by defining the function. I just write the code normally and then wrap it inside the function. So all those arguments I know I will change while writing it is what I put inside this square, inside this bracket, this parenthesis, okay? So, you can write any other type of function. Here, I want to write a function that will collect input from a user. I like to use it like user interface. So what do? Use a function called input. That input means collect that from, let user be the one to enter that. This int, it means integer, meaning whatever the user is entering, convert it to an integer and save it in a variable called hours. The same thing I did here. I want to collect the rate, the amount, like the amount of maybe the work pay from a user. Okay, that's why I'm using input. And then what I want to show is enter the rate. I could just put rate. It will still do the same thing. Wrap it in a float. Float means it should include decimal points. So convert whatever the user is entering to a decimal number, float, and then save it in the variable rate. Someone trying to write on the screen, please just erase that, okay? And then you can multiply the hours and the rate. And then I save it in a variable pay. You can use any variable. What do I want to return? I want to return the pay. That's what I want it to show. So then remember, call the argument, call the function. Yeah, I did not put any argument inside the function because I want to collect it from the user. So run it, it's going to give you something like this. Enter the hours. You can say enter hours is what I put inside the input. So how many hours? Maybe I want 40 hours. Put enter rate. Maybe the hours, my hours, I collect $50 per hour and then press enter. Then it's going to give me the total amount. It's going to multiply that. So you can play around all of these, okay? And just remember that to make the user enter the whatever you want to call it, you have to use input, okay? This int converts it to an integer. This float converts whatever the user is entering into a float, okay? Yeah, I mean, the same thing here, just go around it. I'm looping through each of these, what I have here, each of these. So I open a new list, as is an empty list. I want to populate it. I want to fill it with some things, but I don't know yet. So just open it. It's an empty list. Okay? So just put your square bracket. Then I want to loop through each element in this list. So I put for two. This can be anything. I can put I can put anything. So I just put two to show that, okay, it's tuple. Tuple is just a square, something inside a square, inside this bracket, this parentheses. But you can use any variable. For this, in this list too, remember, it's going to start from the first one. Sum it. Why am I using sum? Because I have two elements, two numbers inside it. So I want to sum it. I'm using the sum method. And then I save it in a variable heart. What do I want to do? I want to fill whatever the sum, I want to put it inside this new list. I use the append that I introduced earlier on. Append, you can see I call on the new list, dot, then I append this add, this variable add to it. Suppose I don't need to sort it. I just print new list. I want to see what is there. It's going to give me that, meaning it has already iterated through each element that I have there. I use sorted because I want to sort it in ascending order, okay? I want to sort that, and then it gives me the result in ascending order, okay? I'm going to skip, okay, let me just quickly go through dictionary. I put this exercise, but as it is, I mean, if this is what we can do today, I don't mind. And then we might need to, if time does not permit, that means we're going to start working with data from next class. But like I told you, we're going to have extra class. So let me quickly go through dictionary because these are things you will need while working with the data. I cannot just jump straight to the data and then be coming back to this, okay? So a dictionary is just the difference between, remember, list starts with a square bracket, but dictionary, you use a curly bracket. Dictionary just contains two things here, key and value. The first number, the first thing element you have here is called the key. Then you put colon. The next thing in front of that colon is the value of that key. So here I have 3 keys and 3 values. I mean, it does not necessarily have to be a number. I could have a dictionary D that is this, where the key is a name, and then I can put, you know, the value as this. I can put the key to be, let's say, age, and the value, since it's a number, don't wrap it in quotes. Numbers are not wrapped in quotes, okay? So you can put, let's say, 15. So it does not necessarily have to be a number, or the key and value can be any of string or numbers, okay? So just remember that. So suppose I want to get the value of this key 80. All you need to do is take your variable. Here I have the variable port. Then put the key there, which is 80. And then it's going to give me the value that I have there. I could as well do that for other keys, like 443. And then it gives me the key HTTP, gives me the value HTTPS. So you can get the value by calling the variable, put a square bracket and pass the key there, and it will give you the value of that specific key. Okay, so if you want to update that, suppose the value of that port 23, this port 23 is actually SMTP. How do you do that? Just call your variable port, pass in the key 23, and then update the variable. Instead of telnet, I want the variable SMTP. Okay, SMTP. And then I can call port. See, it has changed the value from telnet to SMTP. So I now have SMTP and not telnet, meaning that a dictionary is also mutable like list. You can change the elements in that dictionary, you can update it. Here, this line I was trying to put in to include another key valued pair by naming a key named 110 and then passing the value as pop. Okay, so, and if I do that, you can see both are already now included, the key 110 and the new value pop. So that's how you update your dictionary. So here, all I'm doing is to convert this dictionary to a string. How do you do that? You use str. We have used integer, int, int. We have used float. Another data type is the string. Okay, so converting this variable, this dictionary to a string, I just put str and wrap it around the variable. And then you have how do you know it's a string? You can see this double quote. If you are not sure, just check the type of that string, of that port. So let me wrap it around this. Dict means dictionary, so let me wrap it around that. Then you can see give me string, str, meaning the type. After wrapping this variable port around the string, then it gives me that the type is now string. But if I check the type of the original port, is a dictionary. That's why you have dict. Okay? So this brings me to the end of this Python basics. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to split us into breakout room to